Felicitous greetings, fellow Fanatics. I'm Adam the Fanatic, also known as Mario Fanatic 15, and today we're going to be taking a look at Philosophia Floating World by Cogito Ergo Meeple. Please keep in mind that this game is currently being funded on Kickstarter, and as such, anything mentioned herein is subject to change. I'll be playing the game through the Tabletop Simulator demo, which can play up to 3 people. However, the finished product is intended to be able to play with up to 6. Before I go into the game itself, I should briefly touch on the meaning of floating world. Just as the previous Philosophia game, Dare to be Wise, was steeped in Hellenic culture, Floating World is likewise centered around the philosophy of Japan, especially that of the Tokugawa shogunate. Starting in the late 1600s, a style of ink paintings became popular in Japan known as Ukiyo-e, or pictures of the floating world. Much of the imagery in this game is from that period, especially near the end of the shogunate in the early to mid 1800s. Now I know that there are many gamers out there that hate reused artwork, but personally I've never had a problem with this as long as the art reflects the theme and flavor of the game. And indeed, the artwork is much of the theme and flavor here. I see no harm in reusing pre-existing artwork. And beyond that, Cogito Ergo Meeple has not merely lazily copied and pasted these pieces. Rather, they've taken the time to digitally restore them so that the coloring in-game better reflects the way they would have looked when originally painted, as opposed to the way that they've faded over the years. At its heart, Floating World is a deck builder with an I cut, you choose mechanic. Each round, you'll draw 6 cards from the player to your left and immediately put one of them into their discard pile. The remaining 5 cards you'll put into 2 piles, one with 2 cards and the other with 3. They then choose one of these piles to keep and discard the other. The cards you choose will affect both what income you acquire and what actions you're able to take over the course of the round. The goal of Floating World is to gather 4 different Ganbaru tokens. Alternatively, you can gather any 2 of them and find an opponent's hidden location instead. More on that in a bit. The 4 Ganbaru tokens are each acquired in various ways. The Chie token is obtained by gathering 1 wisdom card representing each of the 4 religions that was prominent in Japan at the time: Confucianism, Taoism, Shintoism, and Zen Buddhism. The next 2 tokens are acquired similarly, but not identically. You gain the Shinto token by constructing 3 shrines. Each shrine requires you to travel to a city that doesn't already have one and construct it there. There are enough spaces on the board for all players to build their shrines, but the longer you wait, the more picky the placement will become as other cities fill up. The Zen token likewise has you building a pagoda. The pagoda is more expensive than the shrines, but you don't need to be on a specific spot to construct it. Finally, you have the Bushido token, which will have you travel to one of the specified spaces on the board to do battle with a yokai. If you manage to overcome one, you'll claim the token. In order to achieve those goals, you'll need to use your cards in various ways. Each round consists of 3 phases. Firstly, you have the aforementioned draw phase, where you'll perform the cut and choose mechanic. Secondly, you have the collect phase, where each player will gain coins, time tokens, and builders according to the icons at the lower left corner of the cards they've chosen. Once all players have collected their tokens, they proceed to the action phase. The third and final phase of each round, the action phase, is done simultaneously. Any player may declare their intent to take an action at any time. However, this often results in 2 players wanting to take conflicting actions at the same time. 2 players may want to purchase the same card for their deck, or 1 player may want to move into a space occupied by another player. Whatever the conflict, you resolve it by looking at the influence track. Each character has a corresponding symbol listed here, and out of those involved in the conflict, the player with the highest influence decide who gets their way. They can choose themselves, in which case they'll immediately move their influence marker to the bottom of the track. If they choose any other player, they retain their position. Regardless of whom is chosen, all other players have effectively wasted their action, though only the winning player has to pay the cost involved if purchasing an item or a card for their deck. There are 2 ways you can take an action. Firstly, most cards from your deck will have an action printed on them, and keeping that card allows you to take that action by discarding said card during the action phase. Secondly, your player board has symbols representing various actions. By placing a time token on top of an action, you may take it. You'll start with 2 actions covered at the start of the game. I'll explain why in a bit, and whenever you gain a Ganbaru token, you'll place it on top of another action, blocking it from being chosen. This means that as time goes on, you'll have to rely more and more on your deck in order to take the actions you want. There are several kinds of actions available to players in the action phase. To start, you have the study action. This allows you to take the rightmost wisdom card and draw a new one. Alternatively, you may use a study action to cycle the wisdom cards, putting all 3 of the current cards on the bottom of the deck and immediately refilling the board with 3 new wisdom cards. The shop action works similarly, though unlike study, you may take any of the 4 available item cards, though those close to the deck will cost more than the rightward cards. This is the only way to acquire the weapons necessary to battle yokai, and additionally, you can purchase ships that will allow you to move to any space on the board. Like the study action, the shop action can be used to cycle the items instead of purchasing. Next, you have buy card, which again works similarly to shop. Unlike items, location cards have a printed cost on them that remains static regardless of how far along the track it is. When you purchase a location card, it immediately goes into your discard. Once again, you can use a buy card action to cycle the currently available cards. But you can't win just by obtaining various types of cards. For victory, you'll need to take other actions too. Firstly, you have movement, which is pretty straightforward, allowing you to move as many spaces as there are arrows on the icon. If you move into a space with another player, an influence contest begins immediately, and if the moving player wins out, then the losing player goes to the space where they just were. Next is the Matsuri action, which allows you to place the festival token in your current space. There's only one festival token, so if it's already on the board, it's moved from its old location to wherever you are. When at the festival location, you cannot take the search action, but you can freely exchange coins and time tokens for one another at a 1-to-1 rate. After that, we have the burn card action. This allows you to choose any card in your hand or discard pile and remove it from the game, allowing you to get rid of weaker cards and thin your deck. This is not a legacy game, so please don't actually burn your cards. Or do such if you want. I'm sure the publisher won't complain if you buy a new copy every time you want to play. Then we come to build. This allows you to spend the appropriate resources to build a shrine or a pagoda. As mentioned before, you must be in a city that does not already have a shrine in order to build one, but you can build a pagoda from anywhere so long as you can pay the cost involved. Finally, we have the flip location and search actions, for which I'll need to explain how secret locations work. At the beginning of the game, each player will draw 2 random location tokens, each corresponding to a different city on the map. You'll place one of these face down atop your search action. This is your secret location that other players are trying to discover, and one atop of any other action of your choice. This is your decoy. As the game progresses, there are 2 actions which rely on these. Flip location action has you taking a coin and 1 unused location token, which you reveal to all players, placing it on the map. The other relevant action is search. The search action allows you to search the city you're currently in. If any player has that city on their board, either as their secret location or their decoy, they immediately reveal it. If it was their decoy, you take the location token face up and place it atop one of the actions on your player board. If it was their secret location, they place the token on the board and you collect a secret location token, placing it on your board as you would a Ganbaru token. Once you have a secret location token, you only need 2 Ganbaru tokens to win. In addition to the standard rules, there's also a single player variant included. When playing solo, you'll use 1 or more dummy players called Unmei. Unmei work in a simplified manner, still needing 4 Ganbaru tokens to win, or 2 Ganbaru in a secret location. Unlike human players, Unmei may collect multiple Bushido and Chie tokens. Before the player's collect phase, the Unmei rolls a resource die 3 times, which will give them their income. Similarly, before the player's action phase, the Unmei player will roll an action die 3 times and take the appropriate actions. If they have a stockpile of excess time tokens, they'll take additional actions until they're down to 4 tokens. During an Unmei player's action phase, players may still contest them if they have the appropriate action available to them. When an Unmei player has the advantage in influence, they will always rule in their own favor. Since the Unmei player can't cut cards, at the start of your draw phase, you'll discard whichever card in your hand has the highest cost. If 2 or more of them are tied, you choose from among them. After that, you shuffle your remaining cards and put them into 2 random piles, 1 of 2 cards and another of 3 as usual. In conclusion, Floating World is an intriguing game that's a refreshing take on the deck builder genre. Mixing it with the cut and choose mechanic makes for more interesting decisions, as you're no longer just paying attention to your own deck, but to your opponent's as well. Combining this with the actual board further makes things interesting, as you're not simply collecting vague and nebulous victory points that completely break the game's immersion. Immersive this game is, as everything is well tied to its central theme. As I'm playing over Tabletop Simulator and the game is still in a prototype state, I can't comment on component quality, but the digitally restored Ukiyo-e artwork looks amazing. On the downside, I'm not really fond of the hidden location mechanic. I have nothing against games with alternative win conditions, however, in the end, actually finding the location isn't a matter of deduction so much as luck. You're effectively just flipping a coin and hoping you find what you need. Similarly, the solo variant is rather disappointing to me. The Unmei player removes many of the aspects of the game which make it interesting, the biggest omission being the lack of the I cut you choose mechanic, which is so central to the game. As this is a preview, I'll not be giving Philosophia Floating World a formal review score at this time. That being said, if you can get some players to play with you, this proves to be a solid game that rethinks and combines familiar mechanics in a wonderful way. If you're a fan of deck builders and want something that feels different from the norm, definitely give it a try. If you're interested in backing Philosophia Floating World on Kickstarter or learning more, links are included in the description. But what about you? What do you think of Philosophia Floating World? Are there any other cultures that you'd like to see Philosophia visit in a future game? If you have any questions, remarks, or opposing points of view, leave them in the comments down below, and please remember to like, share, subscribe, and ring that bell. Until next time, farewell, fellow fanatics. Thank you again for watching. I have plenty more to share with you if you're interested. You can click up here above my head to subscribe to my channel. You can click over here on my monitor to see the most recent video that I've worked on. Or if you prefer, you can click up here to open this mysterious vault and see what video that the YouTube algorithm has picked just for you.